Hey family, this is Missy Walker from MissyWalker.com. That's MISSIE Walker.com. I'm coming to you today with a heavy heart. Last week, I posted on my personal Facebook page that I was just too overcome with emotion to make any comments about the decision that was made to not press charges against the law enforcement officers that murdered Breonna Taylor. And I still don't have words for how I feel. I'm feeling a lot like many of you, hurt, disappointed, tired. To add to that, that decision was announced on the same day, the anniversary day of the not guilty plea that was rendered for the men who killed Emmett Till. I'm tired, just like all of you, and I am no expert. I'm certainly not an attorney. I'm a Black woman with a heart for Breonna Taylor. I have followed the news like many of you, credible news sources, to try to get some perspective on what has happened here. And one of my dear friends sent me a video from a news outlet where an attorney was speaking about the case. And I want to play it now because it made a lot of sense to me. Take a look.
I was not expecting murder charges. Now, let me go back and say this. The grand jury's decision was the AG's decision. And I say that because a lot of people get confused by my statement. Prosecutors control the process of grand jury. It's a secretive process. It's a hearing that only involves prosecutors, the grand jurors, and a court reporter sworn to secrecy. No one else. So a jury hears 100% what a prosecutor puts before them. So with the grand jury process not being as transparent, and you have these outcomes happening repeatedly, you have to understand that there's going to be some distrust, especially with marginalized communities, Black and brown communities. Now, when we talk about why former Officer Hankinson was charged and not the other two, when they entered the apartment, Breonna's apartment, and there was a fire shot from Kenneth Walker, justifiably so. He didn't know who was coming into his apartment, so of course he had the right to protect his home and life. The officers, in their mind, received that as a threat. And according to Kentucky law, they were justified to meet that threat with lethal force. Now, Hankinson was charged with wanton endangerment of 3 individuals who were not in that apartment but were next door. And the question is then, okay, well, how can he be held responsible for almost killing 3 individuals and nothing be done about the individual who actually lost their life, Breonna Taylor? Well, the AG in the press conference yesterday stated that ballistics showed that there were no bullets that struck Breonna Taylor that actually came from Hankinson's gun. The fatal bullet came from one of the other 2 officers. I believe it was Cosgrove. And so that wasn't the fatal shot. Now, as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, I'm still wondering why Hankinson's behavior, his conduct, didn't show reckless disregard for human life for Breonna. Even if no bullet struck Breonna, because we have to be honest, no bullet struck the other 3 individuals either, but he's still being held responsible for them. Was this a homicide? No, it wasn't. Unfortunately, there was events that took place before this botched raid took place. The officers should have never been in Breonna's apartment to begin with. And they had absolutely nothing to do with how the warrant was even granted. That's another issue that's still being investigated. But as far as them taking orders and doing a raid per a warrant and returning fire with fire, unfortunately, that isn't murder. So the law is problematic. The standard of proof that we hold officers to is problematic. And that's why we keep seeing these same results.
Okay. I hear her. It doesn't change how I'm feeling. It doesn't change the hurt that we are all feeling in the loss of Breonna. But I do understand that the laws are working against us in this instance and in many instances like this. So, what do we do? You know, I am a firm believer that I am one person and one voice. There are 328 million people in the United States, and when it comes to social justice, I understand that I cannot change the heart of every person, but we can change the laws and the policies that are working against us. And that starts by voting. The judge that granted the warrant to enter Breonna's home is an elected official. That's important. We have to vote. We have to get out and vote for more than the president. We have to vote in our state elections. We have to vote in our local elections. We have to vote when new policy is introduced. We have to vote every opportunity we have to vote. Your crown has been bought and paid for. Wear it. No excuses. We cannot let this happen again.